curtain comes down on one of the most competitive and entertaining seasons of championship touring car racing since Australia first embraced the Group A formula back in 1984. The spoils of the 92 Shell National Tour have been shared by a record number of drivers, Peter Brock causing the first upset at Amaroo, while the daring deeds of BMW speedster Tony Longhurst and Sierra Hot Shoe John Bowe have frustrated the front-running Nissan GTRs. A quick check of the point standings confirms Mark Scaife a narrow leader over teammate Jim Richards as Seven Sport bids you welcome to Oran Park Raceway for the grand final of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. It's the series swan song for turbo and four-wheel drive equipment. Next year it's full-on 5-litre V8 warfare between Holden and Ford.
This is going to be one hell of a fight between the two Australian V8 manufacturers. There's no doubt about that at all.
Exciting times ahead. Right now it's time to buckle up as we bring you the best in motorsport. Proudly presented by Shell. Go well, go Shell, and Synovus Vitamins. Hello there, I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Oran Park Raceway near Sydney and grand final day of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, can Mark Scaife do it today? Will Jim Richards rob him of the crown? And what are the roles to be played by Tony Longhurst and John Bowe? Alan Moffat, I'm sure you'll agree, we've got a few things there to work out this afternoon.
We have, and some cruel fate to Tony Longhurst this morning, mate. That was really bad luck.
Certainly. Actually, the Peter Jackson Dash normally starts proceedings at the racetrack. The top six draw out, and John Bowe, of course, had the outside of the front row heading down to the first turn. But as you can see, Tony Longhurst slid across the track after being punted from behind by Mark Gibbs and the GIO. Look out to the left. Gibbs on the grass, swacked straight into the side of Tony Longhurst. He finished up going across the track and flat spotted 4 tyres. John Bowe, in the meantime, went on to win it and win it very, very comfortably indeed. There was a helter-skelter for the minor placings, but Bowe picked up $29,000 through winning the Peter Jackson Dash Series. That puts him on pole position for today. I don't know whether Sierra actually has the legs against the Nissan. They've got a marvellous record here.
I think the Nissan has still got the chance to do it, and Freddie Gibson won't be taking any chances wanting to win the championship either for Mark Scaife or Jim Richards.
Well, we've got a power-packed program of racing coming your way from Oran Park this afternoon. The car's coming out for Heat 1 now. Let's take a look at the grid. From position number 1, it's 18 John Bowe in the Shell Sierra. From 2, Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan GTR. And Larry Perkins starts out of 3. From 4, it's 1, Jim Richards, the defending champion. From 5, Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan GTR. From 6, 05, Peter Brock, the Mobile Commodore. Dickie Johnson starts out of 7. From 8, it's 20, Alan Jones. From 9, 30, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. And out of 10, it's 8, Colin Bond in the Caltex CXT Sierra. Huge crowd pouring in, still pouring in here today to Oran Park Raceway for the grand final. The little yellow B&H BMW up the back of the field. A lot of fans upset about that one this morning. And John Bowe, Mr. Consistency in the Shell Sierra. Sharing the front row. Watch the Nissans get off the line. There they go. Goodbye all. As expected, they tear off into the distance. Bowe made an absolute shocker of a start. He's gone back about 8 spots, and even worse was Longhurst, who had to wait 10 seconds after they'd taken off. That's what the rules say. Mark Scaife getting through very, very smartly, and Mark Gibbs, of course, the man deemed to perhaps have caused Longhurst's woes, started back in the top 6.
John Bowe's done it twice now. He crept a little bit in Perth and got away with it, but he was creeping again there, and then he had to put his foot on the brake just when the lights went from red to green, and cost him the start.
Well, they head up the hill for the first time as we welcome Mark Osler, and it looks like Nissan a 1, a 2 and a 3.
Yeah, they're looking very strong at Oran Park today. Very strong in the Peter Jackson Dash for cash earlier this morning. And the interesting thing about this field, the top 10 cars are covered by less than a second in qualifying, which is a pretty astonishing feat. It just shows how much faster the cars are going this year. There's Larry Perkins in amongst the battle. As Mike said, John Bowe making a terrible start off the grid. He's going to have to fight his way back through to this Nissan trifecta at the front. Can Mark Scaife become the youngest Australian touring car champion? We shall see as he leads them through on the first lap. Teammate Jim Richards in second, and Mark Gibbs, the man involved in that controversial mix-up in the Dash for Cash this morning, in third position.
They come storming down the front straight into the left-hander, and putting a little pressure on Jimmy Richards is in fact Mark Gibbs. The Peter Jackson Sierra is one back behind them, as here comes Mark Gibbs straight down on the inside. A Nissan race cam shows it. Jim doesn't seem perturbed at all. I think Jim has resigned himself to the fact of who's going to win this one today. I don't think it's Jim.
I asked him yesterday how he was mentally ready for it. He said, no, well, it's Scavy's championship, so he's prepared to sit there and let him go, and obviously only take up the chips if they fall out in front. But interesting run here with the 3 GTRs when they have to do it, or they want to do it.
Yeah.
The CAM's handicapping system's been criticized all season, and it was just absolutely dreadful to hear that 100 kilos had been put on these cars, but hasn't done a thing to them.
No, you're right. Oh, John Bow gets it loose. Tail into the wall then, and that may be rubbing against the
He's
tyre.
really hurting there now.
He hit that concrete wall very hard. You captured that on the camera there, and the bodywork is rubbing. Smoke billowing from the back of the car. John gave the wall a real clout when he came out onto the main straight there.
That's a good example of power oversteer, it's called.
Look at this. He got the flare off too, I think, on the way through.
He's lost his driver's mirror as well.
I don't think he'll be worrying about that, but the smell of that smoke in the cockpit is always nerve-wracking, and it certainly doesn't look too good for him. But when you unleash 550 horsepower, you have to have the steering just absolutely straight. The car broke away as it came up onto the main straight and had it just a little cocked with no walls in place on any other place. A little wiggle would get him out of it, self-correcting. But
And of course, the battle today is for the minors. It's for third in the championship, and the two key players being John Bow and Tony Longhurst.
That's right, John Bow on 162 points. Longhurst 3 points ahead on 165. At the moment on the track, at least, Bow will be looking stronger, but Longhurst will be fighting his way back to the field, and Bow now limping with this problem. Whether this is just part of the fiberglass flare rubbing and it'll wear itself down, we don't know.
I don't think so, mate. Not with that amount of smoke. It's billowing out from inside the wheel well, and I would say that he's going to start getting quite nervous coming through this fast right-hander, where the weight of the car goes onto that right rear. Not very entertaining for a driver to ever have to worry about his tires. It's very, very crucial. Only a little bit of rubber on the ground separates them from heaven.
We are looking at the scrap between John Bow just ahead of him, Larry Perkins in the statewide roads Commodore, the F4 Commodore. There's JB going through. Actually, Glenn Seaton's the one on the charge at the moment as he moves up on the tail of the Nissan trifecta. As we said at the head of the show, the last touring car championship race by Shell for turbocharged cars and four-wheel drive cars. As the rules change in 1993 when V8s, the fabulous 5 litres, go head-to-head, and a great secondary class for the 2-litre cars. And already indications are that there are going to be quite a number of drivers transferring across to the V8s from some of the other brands as well. So we take our race cam sitting on top of Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra as he comes down the straight. It also give us a good indication, Alan, of the terrain here at Oran Park.
Well, it's a very flowing circuit, Mike. A lot of people think it's tight and twisty. It has got a lot of corners, but it's a very flowing circuit and a very nice circuit to drive on. A fellow that can get his car handling well can really enjoy this circuit. I know I had many happy laps here in my Trans Am Mustang because it was such a nice place to take a handling car. And here we have Glenn Seaton coming down now through the bottom of the circuit up onto the bridge. Fairly quick here, little settle it down, plant the gas. Down he goes down here into a tight right-hander. A lot of body weight going onto the left-hand side of the car, and then quickly now onto the other side. Flowing through here, just pick it up, not too hard on the right rear of the car. Give it a gun. Put up with a little bit of smoke screen dust coming up from the cars in front. Down into the dip and up onto the main straight.
It's an exciting little layout here at Oran Park.
We heard at the beginning of the race that the stewards will be watching very closely any noise infringements this weekend. A number of guys have been pinged during qualifying. Well, Andrew Harris, one of the Holden Commodore privateers, has just been pinged. He's had the black flag held out to him, so he'll be heading into pit lane.
We'll all be safe from next week because Tony Mather will be in charge of the EPA. Tell you what, motor racing is really doing it tough. These cars are quieter than the cars of 10 years ago, and certainly a lot quieter than the cars of 20 years ago.
Well, they've all got mufflers, Mike, and really, a fraction of a decibel is just so hard on them when they're in racing trim, and seems to be just the way the cloud or which way the sun's pointed that brings it up and down on the meter.
Tony Longhurst, meanwhile, has moved up to 12th position as we go back with Nissan Race Cam. Fighting hard with Mark Gibbs there, using all of the track and more. The Dunlop Shud GTR. Quite an historic race this for the GTR. If Fred Gibson's plans go through as far as Bathurst is concerned, we may not see these cars running at Bathurst. And there is the offender, the noise offender, Andrew Harris.
I don't believe that for a moment, Mark. I don't think how you could possibly have an operation of magnitude of Gibson Racing. Oh, John Bow.
John Bow in the wars once again.
Looks like he cocked a bit on the front there as well.
Supposed to be having problems
puncture,
with...
perhaps.
Yeah,
there it is. Right rear has finally worn its way through. He's probably lucky to save it. But that was, again, where the car leaning on the right rear, and if it was going to go, it was going to be on a left-hand corner.
So after one of the most successful touring car championships for John Bow in a long time, Oran Park has turned sour.
Well, that brings Tony Longhurst back into the equation again. But Tony is doing it off the back of the field and up at this stage to about 12th.
John Bow pulls the Shell 18 Sierra into the pits.
Well, he'll be kicking himself because, you just can't argue with a wall. Doesn't matter where you are. And that's one of the real challenges at Bathurst now, Mike. The walls are practically all the way around the circuit. And make a mistake up there and you're in trouble. Just Bondi with some problem.
Colin Bond. Yep, he's got it going again. He's had a little off over there on the grass, trying to knock the flare back for JB and get the fresh rubber on the car.
If Longhurst can continue to pick up some points, that moves him a lot closer to the ambition that he wants to achieve today, and that's to finish third outright in the championship.
Well, that's a commendable achievement if he pulls it off with the level of competition that's been around from the very first round of the Shell Championship. And you get that by accumulating points every weekend, and the BMW hasn't had a failure all season. Tremendous engineering, great preparation.
Meanwhile, Tony Longhurst continues his charge from the back of the field. He's moved up 2 more places to 10th. As this continuing battle between the two GTRs over the bridge, Jim Richards, Mark Gibbs. And John Bow heads back out of pit lane. Appropriate panel beating work done. So here's the top 3. Scaife, Mark Gibbs, Jim Richards, Nissan 1, 2, 3. Just what they would have been looking for. And here's the man who can perhaps move into 3rd place in the championship if things go his way. They certainly have gone in the first heat, thanks to John Bow, Tony Longhurst. Tony put in a...
I was going to say he's almost got that locked up unless something goes away from JB in Heat 2.
Tony put in a superb qualifying performance on Saturday, 4th fastest. Got pushed out of his nice draw in the Dash for Cash this morning. But the little BMW, carrying an extra 40 kilograms over last year, still managed to be 7/10 of a second faster this year.
Yes,
so
well, let's not cry too much about the 40 kilos. And this car, as you see it right now, is a Bathurst potential winning car. They're just going to go morning, noon, and night. They're going to have better fuel economy. They'll probably have 1 less fuel stop than the rest of the teams. And good braking, good tires, good handling, good drivers. Look out, Bathurst, when it comes to BMW.
I guess the critical difference for these guys too, Alan, is if the Australian Touring Car Championship weights stay in for the Bathurst race.
Well, I'd be mad if they changed them. I don't believe that you could possibly even think seriously about changing anything as you see it here today. I mean, I've got my own opinions, but to go backwards again or to release anything from where we are, I think would be criminal.
We're taking our Castrol race cam. Keeping in mind, this is riding under the front of Tony Longhurst's car. Just give you an indication of how quickly he's picking up the field as Jimmy Richards up on the inside of Mark Gibbs. They go down the front straight at Oran Park. Gibbs had been holding down a strong second to Mark Scaife, and I think Jim's doing the protector's role here today. Drops up into second, keeps the field away from young Mark, so he's doing the right thing as the team driver for Mark Scaife.
Jim had a close call going down that main straight yesterday in qualifying. and lost it on the approach to that fast left-hander. But the experienced driver that he is, he didn't fight the car. He let it go, and the sand trap saved him. Ripped off a little bit of under flaring in the brake department, but had he decided to fight that car on such a fast corner, he might have spun it into a very nasty accident.
Mark Scaife, car number 2, heads off towards Yamaha corner as we recap them for you. Scaife, the race leader over Jimmy Richards. Mark Gibbs, what a day for the GTRs. 1, 2, 3. Glenn Seaton runs in 4th, and Alan Jones in the Benson and Hedges machine rounds out the 5. Back at Oran Park Raceway, Glenn Seaton trying to fend off a very determined Alan Jones in the B&H BMW. Jones in the 20 machine has made up probably 100 metres or so and dives to the inside, just shows the front of the BMW to Glenn Seaton. They exit that turn up to the right, then the left. And watch Jones under brakes as they come down the hill if he's close enough. No, not close enough that time. Alan Jones not a contender for a top 5 finish in the championship. Certainly here's Dickie Johnson with Tony Longhurst down the inside of him as he comes storming through the field. And you're riding with him, courtesy of our Castrol race cam. Johnson gets on the draft and tries to respond for that cheeky manoeuvre, but Jones has him reasonably covered until they get halfway down the straight. Then watch him again, straight down on the inside. They're coming up on Brocky's next.
No shortage of straight line speed from the little BMW.
Absolutely not. They'll be able to do that on Conrad all day long. And anybody that thinks that these fellows have been severely handicapped should think again.
Well, he looks like he might have a good co-driver. Johnny Chuclotto is returning again.
BMW factory driver. They're obviously really chirpy about their chances at Bathurst, but this is great. This is what Bathurst is all about. Everybody wants to get in there, at least have a chance.
Absolutely. Alan Jones, we've followed. Now Tony Longhurst as he comes up behind Peter Brock. Boy, is he storming through the field.
Now sitting in position 9.
Our little camera I can see just down there under the front guard. See zeroes in on the tail of Brock's car. Coming up to Yamaha corner. And he's all over Peter Brock. Here he comes down the inside. That's one more. Goes to the back of the queue. And I think the one in front may have been Paul Morris.
Tony made that look fairly easy. Pounced on the 05 Commodore.
So it's got plenty of potential. Watch for Tony, providing he doesn't do too much to his tyres in this opening heat, in heat number 2 this afternoon, because the boys out front are running the Nissans fairly hard.
Yeah, I don't think the tyres are much as a worry as we thought, Mike. The pace that the GTR are doing up front would indicate that they're not too concerned about the second heat. They're going for good points in the first heat, and they're going to take their chances in the second.
Now we get interesting. Here is Tony Longhurst all over his teammate, Paul Morris. Comes down the inside. Morris will know he's there.
Not quite.
Straight again. Out against the wall. Just look how taily the cars are. They're shifting all that weight. This will provide some fascinating picks. Down the inside. Tony guns it. Now moving up on Larry Perkins. This should be equally enthralling. This little thing, this neat little jigger, I'll tell you what, is really fabulous to watch in anger.
Back to the David Goliath struggle here. Big 1,300 kilogram V8 Holden.
And want to be very careful now because Larry's got 1,300 kilos to lay into him.
Colin Bond in the pits. Fuel pump problems for Colin Bond.
Longhurst up to 6th.
That was an easy one at the end of the straight under Larry. Larry dabbing the brakes, Longhurst straight by him on the inside.
He's just peeling them off one by one. Tremendous charge from the little BMW.
Now, not too far ahead of this group. If you look up where Tony is headed, you're going to find Alan Jones and Glenn Seaton.
It begs the question where Tony would have gone if he'd started in his rightful 4th place or even 6th place as a result of the ejection dash, but qualifying 4th yesterday, he certainly showed they had the potential to do well here today.
Larry's not making life any easier for Paul Morris, nor should he. Morris is trying to gun it down on the inside. Larry just accelerates out of there. Colin Bond, laughing Jack Flash. I tell you what, he's had some problems here over the day. 6 laps to go, and Nissan looking good. Mark Scaife's going to do it the proper way, not just pick up the points by running 5th or 6th. He wants to win here today. That's important to him. Jimmy Richards playing a good role there in the second spot, and Mark Gibbs has been in more strife than Paul Keating, runs in 3rd at the moment. Alan Jones in 4th, Seaton is 5th, and Longhurst is 6th. As we bid good afternoon to Neil Cropper. Good to have him aboard. He'll be racing in just a little later on this afternoon.
Yes, thank you, Mike. It's good to be here. Scapey doing a great job at the moment. Got a good margin over his nearest rival, which just happens to be his teammate. There's Bondi limping over the top of the dog leg. And as you pointed out on a number of occasions, Mark about to complete a very big achievement in his racing career. 5 laps to go this time through.
Colin continues to limp around. He's had all sorts of fuel problems there. Fuel pump, I think we overheard the conversation to his pit. So he's heading back into pit lane. All sorts of dramas for the Caltex Ford today.
It's been a fairly lonely drive for Glenn Seaton, but he's having quite a good run. A little bit unhappy with the way things went in practice, but felt the package was good.
Well, Glenn Seaton's only 6 points behind Tony Longhurst, so he's still in with a chance of picking up 3rd in the championship. Bond back in the pits again.
He's got some sort of an electrical drama. You can see the battery in the back of the car there, and we heard Bondi over.
We've got a circuit breaker that keeps popping and stopping, cutting the fuel off.
There we go. Thanks, Colin. Let's have a look at Dick Johnson race cam, courtesy of Dunlop, and he's right on the tail of Larry Perkins in the VL Commodore. And Dick closing up a little under brakes. See the Commodore at this stage of the race, as we get around the 20-odd lap mark, is really starting to struggle a bit on its tyres now. The car will be quite hard to drive for Larry. It's important for him to try and keep the car as straight as he can and not overheat the tyres. Same problem for everyone. Certainly a real problem with the Commodore. It's 1,300 kilograms. Dick on the charge at the moment. That's Brock off in the distance over the bridge. You'd see, by comparison to the pictures we saw earlier, just how much the drivers are feathering the car by comparison to the sort of speed that you saw earlier. And that's all because of the fact that their tyres are now quite hot, just don't have the grip they had to start with.
Larry continually locking his left front wheel through the dip there, coming into the dogleg.
Made a mistake a minute ago. That was Paul Morris in the distance, with Peter Brock right behind these guys. It's only when the car's straight that Dick can really give it everything it's got. And there you can see the 3, Perkins, Johnson and Brock.
It's a good example of the power equality between the Commodore and the Sierra. Translate that to Bathurst on Conrod Straight. I think there's going to be some pretty happy Commodore drivers giving it upwards of 280, 290 Ks on Conrod Mark.
Tony Longhurst is now 2 seconds behind Glenn Seaton.
So this is going to be a pretty tight battle between Seaton and Longhurst. As I say, they're only 6 points apart in the championship.
Last lap now for Heat 1 of the final round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship, and Mark Scaife leads his teammate and former Australian Touring Car Champion Jim Richards. It's Mark Gibbs in 3rd place. 4th place it's Alan Jones. 5th it's Glenn Seaton, under siege from Tony Longhurst. 2.62 kilometres to run. Fred Gibson, team manager. Pretty pleasing day for him, I should think. They're going to clean up the Australian Touring Car Championship, and his protege, Mark Scaife, is also going to win the Australian Drivers' Championship for Tuis. And big occasion for that team.
Well, Alan, you know all about form finishes.
Oh, been there once. I'd like to say once or twice, but I can only say once. But it's a great achievement. Getting any 2-car team to the field, getting them to the start line is an achievement on many occasions. The mechanical dramas that take place is unlike, as I referred to Cape Canaveral a minute ago, they can cancel the launch. There's never been a race cancelled because the race team wasn't ready.
Last corner now for Mark Scaife. He's going to take Heat 1. Jim Richards is closed right up. They make the run towards the checkered flag, and Mark Scaife takes the win. Tremendous performance. 2nd place goes to Jimmy Richards. Enormous gap back to Mark Gibbs. There's Gibbsy. And it's on for young and hold here. We've got Alan Jones, and look at Glenn Seaton side by side with Tony Longhurst, and it runs in favour of Seaton. That was a thrilling finish, a great charge from Tony. Boy, they don't come much closer than that. So that resolves the top 6, but a tremendous performance from Mark Scaife, and he must be absolutely thrilled. Shell Race Score confirms the placings for us. It's Mark Scaife, the Winfield Nissan, from his teammate Jimmy Richards. Third's Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan. Fourth, Alan Jones, and fifth was Glenn Seaton. We're back with more motor racing action in just a moment.
Back at Oran Park Raceway, Superbikes on the circuit for round 1 today of the Shell Oil Series. Well, one man that's happy, Mark Scaife, and with him, let's go down now to Andy Raymond.
Thanks, Mike, and only a step away it is, Mark Scaife. Congratulations. We've only got one leg left, and then it's it, the Drivers' Champion.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. We got a good break, and it was a good start, so we could get a little bit of a gap and look after the tyres, and the car feels very, very good now.
What are you looking at in the next race? Will the BMWs come back even stronger, do you think?
Well, the BMWs will definitely be harder to beat, but no doubt, Jim and Mark Gibbs will also be hard to beat. I was a bit lucky. I got away from the pair of them early and got some nice, good, clear laps, and probably, the second race will be a bit tougher.
If Tony Longhurst comes through the field, as we expect he will, it'll be one crackerjack affair. Shell Oil Superbike Series bringing plenty of enjoyment to viewers across the 7 network. Let's take a look at the way they line up today. 45 Matthew Mladen is the fast man at 1:11.28. Troy Corser on the Peter Jackson Yamaha starts out at 2, and Michael Dowson on the second of the Yamahas out of position 3. 4 is 38 Roy Leslie on the Ducati. 51 is Martin Craigle starting out of 5 from 6. 4, Malcolm Campbell, the Winfield Honda. From 7, it's 5, Michael O'Connor on the second Winfield machine. From 8:32, Kirk McCarthy on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. From 9, it's 24, Kieran Magori. And out of 10 on 99, it is Steve Martin on the Suzuki. So a good-looking field there. Matthew Mladen there on the 45 machine. Troy Corser, Michael Dowson on the 2 Peter Jackson Yamahas, ready to go racing. Watch Mladen off the line. He gets away smartly, but going with him was Michael Dowson, who got away to a beauty, but Mladen will lead them down to the first left-hander. Here comes the charge of the Light Brigade. Matthew Mladen.
That was just a textbook clutch start for Matthew Mladen. He got off the line so effectively. He leads them into the first corner as they've all got through that first left-hander cleanly. That was a tremendous start. A couple of guys running wide there. They'll notice this weekend the track's particularly dusty and dirty, a lot of marbles out on the outside, the offline area, so as they approach the bridge now and then come off the bridge and down through the S's, they'll have to be pretty careful on the opening lap.
Martin Craigle, a brilliant start also. He runs up in the second spot, and Roy Leslie on the Ducati is back in third, so the 2 Yamahas, the PJ Yamahas, have been shuffled back in the pack.
Martin Craigle was the fastest guy in the warm-up this morning on his privately entered Kawasaki. But Matthew Mladen, as always, once the red lights turn to green, he's the man in control. He's already opened up quite a commanding little gap here as they come onto the main straight for the first time. Kawasaki ZXR 750R, the dominant bike of the Superbike Championship this year. Doing well against the dominant Ducatis in the Superbike Championship overseas, and I'm sure Matthew Mladen is heading that way very shortly.
I'll tell you who did make a good start, that's Grant Hodson there on number 18. That's the Suzuki from Melbourne Suzuki and Phil Tainton Racing. Got off the line well. Having a battle at the moment with Troy Corser, who's snuck up the inside and got away with the manoeuvre.
Roy Leslie was another one of the riders to face problems here yesterday on the Duke. And the noise people were claiming it was a couple of dBs over. They drove him absolutely insane. All he did was try and make the bike quieter all day and lose horsepower. So the fact he's been able to come up through the field today is fantastic, considering I believe there was also a black flag ready for the warm-up this morning.
So there's Troy Corser. Just ahead of him, Kirk McCarthy, and a great ride on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. They've just got some new engines built since Eastern Creek to give them more punch out of the corners, a lot more top-end speed. And the bikes have been very quick in qualifying, so this new water-cooled Suzuki is making great inroads in the championship.
We're riding with Mike Dowson on the Peter Jackson Yamaha. Fantastic shots from our race cam team here today. Just listen to the bike as he heads down the front straight into the left-hander. You've got to take my word for it, it was good.
Grant Hodson in behind Michael Dowson. That fabulous pictures as he came up onto the main straight. The run down the very long and at the end bumpy Oran Park main straight. Now the bikes actually run on a slightly different little bit of course here. The touring cars run straight ahead down there. These guys jink to the left and right.
Yeah, that's the way the cars used to go. And it makes it a little bit more demanding for the bike. Slows them down on this.
Very bumpy there. You can see there's a couple of stutters, and then there's more when you get off the bridge here. Very dusty and dirty on the outside. A change of surface, which there's a big black patch there in the cars that upsets their handling a little, and you can see all the dirt on the outside here. See it? Covered in garbage. Get offline there in your history. Dowson's on the pace at the moment.
You wouldn't have had 3 strawberry daiquiris after lunch, would you?
Michael playing his hand back, and there he is, looking back at Mike Dowson from our race cam aboard the Yamaha OWA1 as he gives it everything. 13,800 RPM down the long straight, tucks in under the windshield. Fabulous view of superbike riding.
Martin Craigle,
There's Roy Leslie.
51. They're having a great scrap for second. Ooh. Martin, 23 years of age, on the Kawasaki ZXR 750. And 2 seasons on a 250 GP bike.
Roy Leslie aboard the heavily muffled Ducati 888 Corsa. And as Mike said earlier, all yesterday trying to get these things quieted down. They've been unfortunate in that the V characteristics of the Ducati engine seem to upset the noise monitor more than the Japanese bikes.
Well, young Martin here on 51 built the superbike himself from a standard road bike. He has no sponsorship at all. He has only some minor product endorsement. He's a subcontract boilermaker by occupation and just loves his superbike racing. Looking for a sponsor out there from St Albans in Victoria. Martin Craigle, a young talent, deserves someone to get out there and support him.
On that previous lap, when I drew my breath at the bottom of the main straight, Roy Leslie's Ducati really fought back at him, and he had to take a couple of bites to get round the left-hander. He's tucked in behind Martin this time, closing up just ever so slightly under brakes, and it was just at this point on the previous lap where the thing didn't look too comfortable.
Japanese versus the Italians. 750cc inline 4-cylinder, and there goes the V-twin, showing some superiority under brakes. Little wiggle there.
He had the thing absolutely on the threshold. The rear wheel was just starting to get off the ground. This is fabulous stuff, isn't it? Like, so let's see whether or not he gets the benefit of the toe as they get to the bottom of the straight. He makes a little ground. You can see the lumps and bumps. You go through this little bit of the left-hander, straighten up temporarily, and then it's a hard left.
Bikes on their last lap. As we stay with race cam, Michael Dowson chasing his teammate Troy Coyser. Troy still riding with a wrist brace on. He broke his wrist a number of weeks ago.
We've all got broken bones.
And but he says that's repairing quite well. Should be back to about 100%. They've been fiddling around with the Yamahas this weekend. He changed the ride height in the back of his bike and certainly improved its handling and cornering.
We'll be fiddling around looking for Matt Mladen as well, and there he is.
Half a lap to run. You tend to forget about this bloke. He disappears off in the distance, and he is doing a miraculous job this year. And I think I mentioned earlier in the season, I can't wait to see his performance in the World Superbike round at Phillip Island.
It'll be fantastic. Last corner coming up for Matt Mladen, the perfect score kid. Comes out of shell corner through Goodyear, checker flag at the ready, pops a wheelie, brings it across the line. He takes heat number 1 of the Shell Oil Superbike Series here today at Oran Park.
It's too easy.
Fabulous ride to Matt Mladen. We saw some great midfield scraps and also that mighty battle for second and third. A guy with a tremendous future. Don't be surprised if he's not riding super bikes or maybe even 500s given maybe 12 to 18 months. A lot of interest in this youngster from overseas. So to confirm the placings for you, Matt Mladen on Team Kawasaki, the winner of heat number 1 over Martin Craigle. Roy Leslie finished third on the Ducati. Kirk McCarthy was fourth on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. And rounding out the 520, Troy Corson was the Peter Jackson Yamaha. Cars circulating now prior to the start of round 6 of the Motocross Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series. Well, Matt Mladen certainly a man in a hurry today after winning heat number 1. Let's go down to the pits to Andy Raymond, who's with Flat Matt.
Matt, the national tour continues. The victory tour, congratulations.
Thanks very much. Everything went really smooth in the race, and bike's working really well. It's a little bit slippery out there today after getting out on the track after the touring cars. They seem to run off into the dirt every now and then and bring a little bit of stuff on the track, but yeah, everything went well. We got the start and pulled a little bit of a gap and just held it to the end of the race.
That seems to be where your dominance is really more so than any other places. The start, you just fly off the start, and from there on in, it's just try and catch.
Yeah, well, it was today. I had a little bit of bad luck at Eastern Creek. I didn't get the best of starts, especially in the second one. But, yeah, I try and get the start, and it seems to make the job a little bit easier for me. So hopefully we can do it in the second one.
We hope so too for Matt Mladen down there talking with AJ. Okay, the Formula Ford's out now for round 6 of the Motorcraft Formula Ford Driver to Europe Series. And guess what? Michael Dutton has pole with a 112.12. Cameron McConville in the Van Diemen starts out of 2, and Ron Searle in 7 out of 3. Adrian Mastronado in the Swift out of 4, and out of 5 it's 2, John Blanchard. From position number 631, Stephen Richards. From 716, Craig Lowndes. From 8 at 72, Gavin Monahan. From 9.15, Stephen White. And rounding out the 10 is Gary Casati. So a good-looking field of Formula Ford combatants this afternoon for the Motorcraft Series.
10 seconds to go as Adrian Mastronado and the Remo Swift readies for the start. Away they go. Michael Dutton, a great start from pole. Cameron McConville in the yellow Van Diemen, just a fraction better. It's a drag race in these evenly matched cars as they come down Oran Park Straight for the first time. John Blanchard manoeuvres across to 3rd position. And there's a real squabble there for 5th, 6th and 7th. McConville it is, in control. Michael Dutton 2nd, one off into the dust.
One in the middle of the pack.
Now let's see if the pack can... No, the pack might have got through.
This is nasty.
Yeah, that was the short back and sides.
You can't spin in the middle of the track and not collect somebody. Everybody does their best, but when you lose it like that right in the middle of the pack, you've had it.
I would suggest this is going to be a red flag situation. I can't imagine they had the yellows out with cars blocking the track like that. Let's take a look at how that happened again. Getting around sideways. The other one spun. Now, that was the difficulty. He went around another 180 degrees. And 3-car pile.
Got his right rear tire in the dirt. That's all it took. He wasn't able to let it go, or he was unprepared to let it go. Fought it, brought it back in the middle of the track, and got T-boned.
Cars lined up now for the restart to this afternoon's Motorcraft Formula 4 Driver to Europe round. Stephen White, Stephen Ellery and Cameron Partington out of the rerun after problems in that praying in the opening lap. Cameron McConville, the Anderson Consulting Machine, the man who could take out the championship this year. And a beautiful start from Cameron. Moving up quickly to the inside of him was Michael Dutton in the red machine. But you'll notice that Cameron McConville at this stage hugs to the inside, and he'll lead them down the first turn. Let's make sure they can all get through here without a repeat of the problems. Some screeching of tyres through there and beneath the bridge and the exit to that turn. But they're all through there safely and heading down to the right-hander.
Well, a few less cars that time, and they do squeeze through rather comfortably. There's John Blanchard covering Stephen Richards as they swing into this tight part of the circuit the first time. So it's McConville, Richard Dutton, Ron Searle, a great start, John Blanchard, Stephen Richards and Adrian Mastronado as they head onto the bridge for the first time. Quality field of Formula Ford cars here. This round of the Motorcraft Formula Ford Series. As Mike said earlier, Cameron McConville in a position where he could win the championship today if things go his way. We'll keep you up to date on that. But his most close contest has been between Michael Dutton and John Blanchard. It's been between these three guys throughout the championship. McConville now on 91, Mike Dutton on 80 points, and Blanchard on 76. But the spoiler in this pack is Ron Searle.
Sure is. There he is running back there in 3rd as they exit Goodyear Turn. Out wide against the concrete wall there. Michael Dutton. Black flag car number 39. Adrian Mastronado, one can only suspect that is for noise.
Well, the clerk of the course did indicate that there was going to be no mercy if the machine went off.
Oops.
They were obliged to bring them in, and they're certainly doing that.
Mark Noske, the son of Tony Noske, it looks like he's buried it down there in the mobile machine. I thought he drove very well at Wanneroo. Oops, 33.
They're all coming off. Frank Morabito. So a lot of dust and dirt coming onto the track, and the cars are starting to feel the pinch. So Stephen Richards maintaining station, a gap between him and Blanchard, and young Craig Lowndes opening and closing by a 1/10 of a second or two. There's nothing in this.
Here's where he's got to work hard. He's going to not miss a beat along here. He wants to take advantage of just creeping ever so slowly ahead of his opponents there, so that when he does get onto the straight, he's got a sufficient gap to hold them off with any slipstreaming activities that take place naturally on the straight.
4.2 second lead for Cameron McConville over Michael Dutton. So Cameron well in control. Very dominant performance at Wanneroo Park 2 weeks ago.
There's Michael coming through now. You've already seen Cameron and the Anderson Consulting Machine exit beneath the bridge, head down to the right-hander.
I said earlier in the race that McConville had a chance of wrapping up the championship here. Well, that was dependent on two things, how Dutton went and how John Blanchard went. Well, at the moment, if Dutton finishes second, the championship will go down to the wire at Eastern Creek in August. So they've got a long time to sit around and bite their nails.
And these cars are subject to a big inspection after each race, Mark. They get a pretty good tear down.
Some of the cars get pulled down, and inspected. I'm not sure the total scrutineering process, but the Formula Ford Association do keep on them pretty consistently to make sure the cars are
tight. Coming down towards Yamaha for the final time. Cameron McConville is already down to the bottom of Goodyear Corner. There he is. Well and truly on the way to the Australian Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series. He chalks up another one here today. Excellent drive to Cameron McConville. Michael Dutton will get across the line to pick up second spot. But I'll tell you what, they are a long way behind. Stephen Richards will pick up third, Craig Lowndes in fourth, and John Blanchard in fifth. And I think that's about the order. Young Melbourne boy, Cameron McConville, in the Anderson Consulting Machine. He is your winner this afternoon. Michael Dutton confirmed as runner-up. Stephen Richards in third, Craig Lowndes in fourth, and John Blanchard rounding out the five. And we'll be back at Oran Park in just a tick. Just a section of the huge crowd here at Oran Park Raceway today for the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship Grand Finals. Plenty of open wheelers and, of course, the tin tops. Let's go to the production cars. Cars just about set to go in the Australian Production Car Championship race here this afternoon at Oran Park. Mal Rose in the Ford has pole position with a 121.13 over Terry Bosanjak. Bosanjak out of position number 2. In the Caltex Commodore from 3, it's 27, Terry Lewis, another Commodore, and Tony Scott, and yet another Commodore out of 4. Kenny Douglas in the Falcon starts out of position 5. Peter Fitzgerald in the Goodyear Commodore out of 6. It's Phil Alexander in the Toyota Corolla out of 7. Roland Hill in the Goodyear Commodore out of 8. Yulden in the Falcon out of 9, and rounding out the 10, Murray Carter in the Nissan Pulsar. Revs start to build now. It's Terry Bosanjak and Mal Rose. About 8 seconds away from the start of the Australian Production Car Championship round here today at Oran Park. Red lights are on, they turn to green, and we have them off and running. Bosanjak getting the better of that. Terry Lewis, I think, made a great start, but the two cars in the front row came across, and that stopped his progress. Look at the little Corolla down here on the grass as they come. Oh, there's more than one Corolla on the grass. There's a Commodore getting through here on the inside as well. This is going to be one tough turn, the left-hander. A couple of them out of shape as they make it into this turn. There's one in the green machine and one even to further out there.
Gee, that was a pretty hectic start. There was tyre smoke and dust. There's still going on. No, they're all staying on the black stuff, but squeezing through that first corner, pretty hectic stuff in the opening round 5 of the Australian Production Car Championship. Mal Rose, excellent start from pole position. He'll lead them onto the bridge for the first time. Bosanjak in there too, and Tony Scott.
They exit that turn and make their way up over the bridge. Bang. It's tight, isn't it? Some concrete greasing going on here in the production car race, and Mal Rose finds himself under a little bit of pressure here. Coming down towards the Yamaha turn.
So it's Ford's. Mal Rose leads Ken Douglas, and Don Watson has had a huge shunt coming off the bridge or onto the bridge.
Elementary.
Goodness me.
We've got a red flag out, so I don't think this is going to go too far. They've had that tangle down in the bottom turn. The red coming out already as the cars come across the strike. Car number 77, Matthew Martin, just stepping or climbing out of his car. We've already seen the aftermath of that accident down there. Don Watson, the 15 car, he is out. It was a pretty tight corner as they came out. One has speared off into the guardrail on the approach to the bridge. Very pleased to say that both drivers are quite okay. Sadly, we can't say the same about their equipment. 10 seconds away from the start of the Motorcraft Australian Production Car Championship race here at Oran Park Raceway this afternoon. Ford certainly looking pretty sharp here earlier, and off the line. Terry Bosanjak getting out smartly. One going with him is Tony Scott. This is the restart as they head down the front straight. Let's hope that we don't have a reenactment of what we saw the last time they approached the bridge. Once again getting up on the inside of the grass, and Bosenjak trying to fight them off, heading down to the bottom turn.
Well, that first lap start was pretty frenzied. We saw 3 or 4 cars get lost. They haven't made the restart. A much cleaner start amongst all the dust and tyre smoke. And as they come under the bridge for the first time, I think you'll find it's Melrose once again leading them down. There's Ken Douglas, second place. Terry Bosenjak in the first of the Commodores. Tony Scott wants to argue with fourth. And the Falcons looking pretty dominant here. They've had struggled this year with the older car, but this is the new 4-litre Falcon SS. It's come on stream. It's proved to be a supercar. Ken Douglas had a great debut with the car at Malala. So there's the advantage, Melrose, at least 100 metres over Ken Douglas. Terry Bosenjak, the big improver this year with the Caltex Commodore. Tony Scott in behind him, and the NEC car of Terry Lewis. And there's Kent Youlden, running new colours this year as Peter Fitzgerald, I would say. Sneaks up the inside coming onto the main straight. This is a side-by-side drag.
Yeah, he's in a good position to take advantage of the inside line here now, but had he had to wait later, it wouldn't have been so easy. Even now, it's not a foregone conclusion. Now he's decided to pull in there, locked up the brake, being a bit too aggressive maybe. Again, no, decides against it. Well, yes, decides against it, but that's all never going to get you anywhere, that kind of driving, unfortunately. He's doing everything he can to harass, but not in a clean position to take advantage of the geometry, the natural geometry of the corners that have got to have the car placed in the right spot to be able to take advantage of that kind of a move.
Well, if anything, the Ken Douglas looks like he may be holding up the Commodores a bit as they come off the bridge. Bosenjak moves up on the inside, pushes Ken wide, and Tony Scott's going to look down the inside as well. He's taken him there, and Terry Lewis is going to go as well. They're making life very hard for Kenny Douglas. So 3 of them have gone through in the space of quarter of a lap. So Douglas slips back to 5th.
Well, he was definitely holding them up, and the indication of how quickly they've moved out on him is an indication of that. He wasn't doing anything unsporting. He was holding his position, but you can see the other 3 just went by him like he was standing still.
The fact that they were held up there for a while has actually played to the hands of Melrose. It's Kenny Douglas, pit bound. Melrose doing it for Henry here today, and there's the gap that he's established over the rest of the field.
Well, Mal was just raving about this car when he picked it up. And he's also getting some help from Ford too. They're giving him a free engine. They're giving him part supply as Terry Lewis.
Jeez, that's deep.
Through on Tony Scott.
That was a nice move.
Tony's looked very ragged trying to hold Terry off. He's obviously putting a lot of pressure on him here.
Go!
Toyota.
Tom Watkinson. Way out of shape in the Corolla there.
He spun and everyone else jumped. Last corner coming up for the Motorcraft Australian Production Car Championship round here this afternoon at Oran Park. And it's going to go to Ford. Melrose comes out of the final turn across the line, and he tastes victory. Terry Bosenjak is in fact going to pick up the second. Terry Lewis in 3rd place, and then followed by Tony Scott in the Commodore. Let's check him out on the race score. Melrose, the race winner over Bosenjak, Lewis, Scott. And rounding out the 5, Peter Fitzgerald. And we're only seconds away from the start now of the Tui's Formula Brabham series, the Gold Star series. 8 starters, sprint race today. Mark Larkham on pole alongside with Mark Scape. Neil Crompton in there having a drive, and it's Larkham, in fact, who gets away smartly. I think it was Crompton got up reasonably smartly on the inside as they came down the straight. Mark Scaife looking for a double this year, not only the touring car title but also the Australian Drivers' Championship crown as well. 10 going through is Warwick Brooklyn. As they head down into the bottom corner, Scaife now all over Larkham as they come out of there. Now they get the power down. Can he make it? No, he won't.
Better not try.
No,
moving covering his ground there. This is a really important battle for the championship. This is the final round of the Australian Drivers' Championship, and Larkham must beat Scaife. But he's got to do more than that. Scaife has to be in a lot of trouble. He has to finish lower than 6th if Larkham's going to win the title. So it really is going to take a DNF from Mark Scaife to avoid him from being the Australian Drivers' Championship for the 2nd year in succession.
Well, you wouldn't wish that on any driver, losing it by not finishing after being so strong all season. But so too is Mark Larkham. He comes out of that turn, works the front straight. There's Neil Crompton running in 3rd. I think he's only open wheel a start for season 92. And here comes Scaife winding it up, pulls out of the slipstream down the front straight, takes him under power.
He didn't protect the corner, Mike. He got an extremely good start and aggressively took his line and took a protective line into that corner on the first lap. I thought he might have done it again, but Mark Scaife found him asleep on the straight, and you don't give Scaife a second thought.
No, you don't at all. They come through this tight one on the approach uphill to the bridge, and you can see that Scaife is already starting to get a little away from Mark Larkham, Crompton, and the other runners being Rooklyn, Chris Hocking, Ron Barnacle, Chris Clearahan, and Paul Collins.
Mark Scaife in the Spa 003, the car he ran last year and he's running again this year. And that would suggest that the car is very well sorted. Ongoing development program between Freddie Gibson and himself, running under the Winfield banner. Beautifully presented car, originally designed by Gary Anderson, who was involved with designing the Jordan Formula One car. So plenty of racing pedigree on this chassis.
Well, it'd be very exhilarating driving this type of car around Oran Park because of the flowing nature. A lot of G-forces through the corners. The driver would really feel that he's got the machine in his hands. He'd feel that G-force practically throwing him out of the car through some of those tight left and right-handers. And I'm sure these fellows are enjoying this circuit as in priority to a number of the other flatter, less undulating circuits we have. Whoa, a little oversteer there. Fishtail for the uninitiated.
Just a sign of how effective these chassis are. Don't forget these cars are only producing about 310, 320 horsepower. Warwick Brown ran around this same track in a Formula 5000 a number of years ago in 65 seconds. These things are going 5 seconds faster than that.
That's incredible.
That's
they look fast. They look as if they're got tremendous grip through these corners.
Quirks Refrigeration, the sponsor of the 20 car, Neil's on Wheels Crompton, gets down to Goodyear Turn. Feel a bit sorry for Neil. Started off the season running with Peter Brock and the Mobile team, and the Advantage International decided to cut back the touring car rounds and just go with one car in the lead up to Bathurst, and that of course made a part-time or a full-time race car driver a part-time commentator. So it's good to see him back behind the wheel because he has got a lot of talent, and I think he'd like to be back there with the permanent ride. But I think he's probably had enough knocks now in this business to understand nothing is ever for sure.
When you don't own the team yourself and you're dependent on a phone call, it's a horrible feeling. And I know earlier in my own career, Mike, I took that decision. I didn't like waiting for the phone to ring, so got to grips with what it was, what it took to run your own team. And as frustrating as that is financially, you do have the advantage of controlling your own destiny a little more.
Every time the phone rang was 3 Synovus vitamins, and he talked to anyone. Car number 10 is the next one through, and that's Warwick Rooklyn. Up to the Yamaha corner. Warwick has driven just about everything there is in Australian racing.
Former Formula 4 champion, went overseas and ran Formula 3 in Britain. And he's tried his hand at a number of different racing categories back in the country. This is the car that John Briggs has driven on occasions this year. Car built by Dave Moore. Almost written off in a crash at Phillip Island by John Smith. I think it was 2 years ago now. Beautifully, lovingly rebuilt. And it's become the rent-a-drive chassis of the Australian Drivers' Championship this year.
2 laps to go as they come out of Goodyear corner. Mark Scaife still leading from Mark Larkham, and Neil Crompton back in 3rd place in the Peter Boylan entry, the Quirks refrigeration car. Larkham very, very tidy through that turn, moves up maybe a little bit closer. Seems to be battling a horsepower deficit to Mark Scaife there on the straight, and they're coming up to put a lap on the car. I think that would probably be running 6th.
Such is the dominance of Mark Scaife this year that Mark Larkham's the only driver to have beaten him. I think that was the race at Winton. But here at Oran Park, Mark Scaife back to his old form. A lot of testing during the week.
Oh, Larkham's a little bit closer that time.
Yes, he wants to get as close as possible on the approach to the main straight, Mike. If he can't be nudging that gearbox, he's not going to get the draft.
1 lap to go. Last lap board out. Mark Scaife under a little bit of pressure, and that's not Jim Richards behind him. That's Mark Larkham as they make their way down the straight for the final time.
Oh, very deep under brakes by Larkham. He's right under the wing of the Spa now.
Adventurous stuff.
Yes, he can't really get by there. He can just try and rattle Mark Scaife. Hope that he might get a little bit wide and shoot up on the inside if possible, but provided the lead car doesn't make a mistake. It's going to be a brave move that will get you by under those circumstances.
I tell you what, he saved the best for last. Mark Larkham in the Mitre 10 entry. Here they come. Up on their way to Yamaha, and Larkham, there's only one spot to pass. It's downhill. He's got to be closer than this, though. Up to the top of Yamaha, down towards Goodyear for the final time. And it's going to be a win in the Tooheys Gold Star, Oran Park, on grand final day for Mark Scaife as he heads the Winfield Spa out of the last turn, beating Mark Larkham, who places in second in the Mitre 10 entry, and Neil Crompton in the Quirks refrigeration car finishes back in third. Let him check them out for you on our Tooheys Gold Star board. Scaife the winner over Larkham. Third going to Neil Crompton, fourth to Warwick Brooklyn, and fifth to Chris Hocking. Well done, Mark Scaife. Back here at Oran Park Raceway, we're preparing for Heat 2 of the Shell Oil Superbike Series. Line-up as follows. Matt Mladen, after winning the first heat, retains pole for the second. Troy Corser on the Peter Jackson Yamaha out of 2. Michael Dowson on the second of the Yamahas out of 3. And Leslie on the Ducati out of 4. Martin Craigle on the Kawasaki starts out of position number 5. And Malcolm Campbell, the Winfield Honda, from 6. Michael O'Connor out of 7. From 8, it's Kirk McCarthy. From 9, Kieran McGorry. And from 10, Steve Martin. And away they go. Once again, the Whiz Kid gets out and running. Martin Craigle goes up with him very, very smartly indeed and picks it up, so it'll be Craigle and Mladen into the first turn. Just look at them swapping as they come down to the left-hand. And Mladen's in the lead, Craigle in second, but he's fighting back a wall of challenges on the inside. They exit that turn beneath the bridge and head down to the right-hander.
Fabulous commitment there from Craigle. Got a great start, but boy, did you see Mladen under brakes as they got down to that left-hander. So it's Mladen leading. Craigle still hanging on to second place. I think it's Kirk McCarthy up into third. Yes, it is on 32.
Hodson, and just ducking under him was Troy Corser on the Peter Jackson Yamaha. So the field bunched up once again as they come over the bridge for the first time. Mladen doing his usual lightning start, although Craigle got the jump on him off the line. That's 2 times he's done that.
Oh, Corser really forcing the issue through. Got third place out of that. That was a great bit of riding.
It's an impressive run from Kirk McCarthy on the new Suzuki, doing a lot of development work. He's up in the 4th position.
Mal Campbell also moving through the field there on the Winfield Honda, up to I think about 6th on the road as Mladen hauls him downhill into the left hand, and the exit at Coca-Cola. There's Mladen, Craigle.
Actually, Malcolm Campbell isn't riding today. That's Michael O'Connor aboard the second Winfield bike. Malcolm unfortunately had to head back to Tasmania this weekend following a family bereavement, so our condolences go to Malcolm. Meanwhile, this great battle for the lead. Matthew Mladen, Martin Craigle, as they come down hard under brakes. There's Troy Corser.
Kirk McCarthy here doing a stellar job on the Ansett air freight machine, the Suzuki.
Roy Leslie back in 6th place. You can just see him there, 38. Great shot of Mladen when he came onto the main straight the last time. When the tyres are cool, the bike gets a real tank slap, a real shimmy in it. As he went down the main straight, the thing was shaking. He just cracked it wide open and pressed on with it. Great spectacle superbike racing. This is Troy Corser. Good performance from him on the previous lap to really force the issue and sneak through to 3rd place, getting by Kirk McCarthy on the Suzuki. See all that garbage on the outside that we were talking about in the earlier heat. Big crowd in attendance. Mladen in control. Number 16 there is Benny Archibald.
Ben Archibald's riding a bike as a member of the Peter Jackson team. It's being prepared by Peter Malloy, having left the Ducati team, and part of the deal is that Peter Malloy prepares the engines for the Peter Jackson Yamaha team, so bit of a contra deal going on there.
Well, he's been able to 32.
And that is
Kirk McCarthy. It looks like he's okay and on his feet. Bike's a bit worse for wear, and there's plenty of gravel rush up the left-hand side of those leathers by the look of it.
Well, that's a great shame for the Suzuki team. So we take race cam aboard Michael Dowson's Yamaha through the tight and twisty section at the back of this circuit, 2.62 kilometres in length. Quite bumpy through this section. And you can see the back of the Winfield Honda wiggling around under power as he tries to get 140 brake horsepower on his rear tyre. You can see it skipping and jumping around. That's probably one of the most difficult parts of the circuit for these superbikes. Now, very bumpy coming off the bridge.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned earlier, a little change in the surface, so you get varying amounts of grip. Not what you need on one of these sorts of racing machines. Up to the dogleg, flick to the right and to the left and down the hill. Nowhere near as bumpy here as it used to be. Much, much better under brakes.
I think they moved them. A couple of spots still bumpy, but to his credit, Tony Perridge has done a marvellous job, the upkeep of Oran Park. So sections of the track resurfaces, Neil mentioned. The place always looks a picture. Guys, both riders and drivers, always pleased to come here and race.
And
Absolutely.
Michael Dowson climbs all over the back of Steve Martin. There's Steve Martin as we go back to race cam. Steve aboard the new Suzuki Watercool 750.
Oh, Dowson up the inside. Yes, no?
Oh, look at the Yamaha shuddering under brakes.
I thought he'd done it, and then he had to have another think about it, and the back of the thing was stuttering into the corner.
You just cannot brake any deeper than that. Once the back wheel starts popping off the ground, you're not slowing down at all.
I was going to say, I hope all these guys took their Synovus this morning.
Steve Martin's exit speed off that corner was very, very good. The bike's getting off the corners very rapidly, obviously handling well, punching out of the corners nicely. Maybe a little slower in a couple of the faster spots on the circuit, but he's getting away ever so slightly as they go down to Sutton's corner.
Like Roy Leslie headed into the pits.
Oh, that's a shame.
And that was a black flag for noise, and he just drops his head and walks away. He's had enough.
That's crazy. That's just nuts.
He's had Friday, he's had Saturday trying to plug up the noise on these things. They've pinged him again.
There's Matt Mladen doing it ever so easy as he takes the exit to Goodyear, works his way now down the front straight.
Really has been the sensation of the series this year. 2 laps to go as he crosses the start-finish line.
What a talented young rider.
Undefeated in 10 consecutive races, and that's only 2 races less than Mal Campbell's overall career record. If that gives you some idea of how successful he's been.
Oh, the kid's got no talent.
They've just...
and it's all happened in the space of 12 months. Let's have a look at the Kawasaki ZXR 750R, the dominant bike in Superbike this year, 748cc inline water-cooled 4-cylinder. Look at the power output, 144 brake horsepower at 13,800 RPM. That's high-tech for you. 6-speed gearbox, top speed almost 300 kilometres an hour. And look at the size of the brakes, 2 320mm front discs and a 190mm disc on the back. And that all adds up to some quite incredible performance.
Yes, it's an interesting package.
They've just shown the noise flag to Grant Hodson as well on the Suzuki number 18, so we'll keep working at reducing the field.
I don't know what the answer to it is. It just
I do.
well, I know, but it becomes so frustrating with a group of bikes go in, they ping one guy for one being 1 dB over the limit, and the spectators get robbed. I mean, for goodness sake, we all know motor racing's a little bit noisy. So's out the front of the pub on a Saturday night. Last lap board coming out. 1 lap to go for Matt Mladen. Just screams down the front straight here at Oran Park, opening that gap all the time over Troy Corser, Martin Craigle.
So Corser's picked up Craigle.
Benny Archibald's back there, 1 spot behind them. Good to see young Ben doing well. Had a fantastic day at Eastern Creek, I think it was. Oh, a little light on your feet on the exit that time from Troy Corser.
Puts a chill down your back when they get the power on these things.
Down the hill. Oh, popping a wheelie into the last turn now. Goodyear corner. 2 out of 2. Pole position. You can't do much better than that. If you're Matt Mladen, that's exactly what he's going to do as he streaks across the line. Matt Mladen, fantastic winner of both heats of the Shell Oil Superbikes. Troy Corser taking second. Martin Craigle back there in 3rd spot. And I think it'll be Benny Archibald probably across the line for 4th, followed by Dowson. Fantastic performance. They don't come any better than this youngster. Remember the name, Matt Mladen. You're going to hear a lot more of him. He's the winner today at both heats. Troy Corser taking second. Martin Craigle, the privateer on the Kawasaki, in third. Benny Archibald, good ride on the Yamaha. And rounding out the 5.99, Steve Martin, the man with 2 chains. Jody Russell singing the national anthem, and high above the circuit at the moment as we await the start of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship Grand Final, Dave Benson from Skydive Australia team. 4,221 square foot flag underneath a parachute. A world record here today at Oran Park Raceway, just adding to the activities. A fabulous day, the grand final of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And we have the cars out on the grid now. And let's check them out for you on our Shell race score. Mark Scaife on pole position in the Winfield Nissan GTR and his teammate Jim Richards alongside. Mark Gibbs makes it a trifecta for the Nissans in the GIO car. Alan Jones starts out of 4 and Glenn Seat in the Peter Jackson Sierra out of position 5. Tony Longhurst, keep an eye on him. The BMW 25 out of 6 and from 7, 23. Paul Morris, the third of the B&H cars. From 8 it's number 11 Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore. From 9, 17 Nicky Johnson in the Shell Sierra. Rounding out the 10 in car number 05 Peter Brock, the Mobile 1 Commodore. And still some cars back in the field behind Dick Johnson. Peter Brock going through. The Reed Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore going through. Wayne Park is the next one. There's John Bower back in the pack. You'll recall he had problems earlier today. Glanced the wall in the opening heat. Folded the fender over the tyre and had to go to the pit. So he is starting well back in the pack this afternoon. So we have the makings of a fabulous grand final here at Oran Park Raceway. Top field, top day, Butte crowd and fine conditions. It's been a great series, no doubt about it. Best touring car racing, the closest racing that we've seen during season 92. Let's wait for the final. We're ready for the grand final at Oran Park. We're about 4 seconds away from the start. Will it be Nissan or Tony Longhurst split them in the opening lap? They're off, the two Nissans. See you guys. Jones breaks into wheel spin. Perkins goes down the inside. He's gathered up smartly by Dick Johnson. Not the best of starts from Tony Longhurst. The Bimmer suffered badly off the start. And you'll see the 3 Nissan GTRs will lead them down into turn number 1. Brock made a blinder down the outside. Glenn Seaton also a good start. There on the outside is Tony Longhurst, and John Bower has gained about 9 spots so far as the Nissans close it up, heading down to the right-hand turn.
Great start from Peter Brock, as you said, Mike. And there's John Bower tucked in behind the Mobile Commodore. John damaged the car, as you saw in the first heat, when he rammed it really hard against the wall coming onto the main straight. They've done the body repairs required. And actually, that's Dick Johnson in front of his teammate there. So Bower in behind the first of the BMWs.
He has done well because Bower, in fact, started out of position 15, I think it was, in the pack. So he has made a long run at the field, got up very smartly. Up to 9th already. There's Larry Perkins and Peter Brock right behind him. As they break it into single file, they run downhill for the approach to Goodyear. Glenn Seaton a little wobbly getting out of that turn. Bounding down to the bottom corner. Larry Perkins sits in and he splits the BMW as they come across the line. Scaife the leader, Richards in second, and Mark Gibbs. Alan Jones actually got away to a much better start than Tony Longhurst, and the rest of the field go by as we pick them up heading down to the left-hander at the end of the long straight here at Oran Park.
So it's Scaife, Richards, Gibbs, Seaton, a good start from there. Larry Perkins has everything locked up as Alan Jones looks down the inside and takes him on the corner. Perkins way out of shape. Brock sneaks up as well. Then it's Johnson, Bower, and Steve Reed in the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore.
Tyres still a little bit cold after only 1 lap. They really do like to get a couple of laps under them before they can be as sticky as they need to be. And once you press that brake pedal, the tendency to lock a front up is devastating. And that's all Alan Jones needed to get by Larry Perkins.
This will be great stuff. The Castrol race cam shows it all as we ride beneath the front of Tony Longhurst's B&H BMW.
Look at the battle for Holden supremacy. Tony's getting a lovely view of that 4 inches off the deck. Larry Perkins out qualifying Peter Brock on Saturday afternoon. And this is a real tough-it-out battle. Larry in the older VL, Peter in the later VN model, and right behind them, Tony Longhurst. So Longhurst is going to keep these 2 big V8 Holdens honest in this second heat. And John Bower, meanwhile, moves up the back of Longhurst to try and resume his fight, to try and hang on to 3rd position in the championship. But after that retirement from the first heat with the body damage, I think Longhurst has it.
Look at this. John Bower down the inside of Tony Longhurst. No beg your pardons. There's Bower. Oh,
we've seen it
quite clean under there too.
We've seen it so many times this year, Mike. The BMW and John Bower Sierra. These two have been locked in battle in so many heats of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship this year. One of them ending in controversial circumstances at Winton, but it hasn't detracted from the excellent sense of competition between these 2 cars.
JB goes through in the 18 car. Brocky is all over the back of Larry Perkins' car. He can't do much about that. And the second group is moving right up behind them as they exit off the bridge. Bow, Longhurst, Jones away to a good start as we mentioned, and the 3 Nissans, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front-running spots at the moment as they drop down to Goodyear Corner. 3 Nissan, Mark Scaife, Jimmy Richards and Mark Gibbs hold the 3 front a little bit closer than the opening heat.
Yes, I don't think any of them are worrying about their tires now, Mike. This is the last run for the season. 92 as far as the Shell Tour to Go Championship is concerned. And Brock up there giving Larry a good punt. Well, I shouldn't say punt, but a good run. Larry seems to have the legs on him down the straight. He won't want to make any mistakes here on the brakes. Brocky's renowned for his foot on the brake pedal. He can go in as deep as anybody.
It was fabulous yesterday with Brocky running around on 2 wheels in that turn, and had time actually to wave to one of the track photographers.
Yeah, well, Peter's always liked to drive with one hand out the window or a waving if possible. It's
maybe he was calling for help.
A habit he got used to when he was out in front so many times, but not so easy for him to do it in this field.
These guys are coming up just a little bit closer to the tail end of the GIO GTR of Mark Gibbs. Glenn Seaton, the number 30 Peter Jackson entry, and Alan Jones, the number 20 Benson and Hedges BMW. You can expect a blinder from Jonesy here today. He's already indicated his last run for the B&H Frank Gardner team will be at Bathurst this year. He wants to do different things for next year. He wants to develop those that skill for the younger drivers in karting, move them up to Formula Ford, then into touring cars. So his touring car days are far from over. But he did tell me during the week he wants to get back where he is in a position of winning races again.
Well, he wasn't world champion for nothing, Mike. I was lucky enough to see him win his world championship at Caesars Palace, and it was Alan Jones and then the rest of the field. He didn't luck into it. He just monstered the whole Formula One field that particular day to take his crown. And I think retired prematurely, but how he went about organizing his life was his own doing. But I think had he stayed in Formula One a few more years, he would have won a few more championships.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here comes AJ right up onto the tail now of Glenn Seaton, starting to put some more pressure, shortening up a couple of the corners, getting set down here for a little inside run, maybe on the approach to the Goodyear corner.
Well, you can see Glenn Seaton on the brakes through that corner, just slowing the car down a little bit. He's probably braking with his left foot and gassing it with his right hand, but there weren't any brake lights on the BMW.
This battle continues. The old protagonists, and Longhurst went out wide there. John Bow has him, and they come onto the main straight. Look at the straight line speed of this BMW. 2.5 litre 4-cylinder engine. They're getting an enormous amount of revs out of these engines this year. John Bow showing the superior power of the turbo Ford Sierra, somewhere in the region of 550 as opposed to 350 or more. But look at how the BMW monsters this turbo Ford through the slower parts of the track.
I want to remember one thing too, with the introduction of the chicane at Bathurst, the Conrad Straight is almost only half as long as it used to be. The thought that all you had to do was have horsepower at Bathurst and you could blast everybody off in a straight line, that doesn't come into it as much anymore. And the little BMWs, as they're going here today, are a tremendous potential threat at Bathurst.
I believe so. And here comes Tony Longhurst again, working down to the inside. Fascinating shots. Andrew Harris, I've just noticed, come in the Daily Planet car. I don't know whether that's another noise.
Big brake lock-up from Peter Brock as he tucks in under the bumper of Larry Perkins' car. Sensational shots from our Castrol race cam, as always. Jones, meanwhile, has got past Glenn Seaton. So AJ's on the move. Aggressive charge from Jones in his last BMW Australian Touring Car Championship drive. He's going to go out on a big note, I have no doubt.
Well, Seaton still trying to see if he can rope him back in on the front straight. Hasn't been able to do that. They're all gaining on Mark Gibbs. And the other group back behind them, Larry Perkins, followed by Peter Brock.
Well, Seaton's car's been handling well all weekend. He's in a great spot. He ran well in the first heat, and he's certainly not out of this heat if we forget about the two cars out in front. Dab of the brakes on the BMW through the right-hander on the approach up to the bridge. Straight line for a millisecond, then just back off for a second until you can see your way around this corner. Plant it down towards the dip here. A right-hander again, you have to glide it. Snap. You can hear that Hollinger gearbox whining away there. These are the 6-speed gearboxes made by Peter Hollinger Engineering in Melbourne. A world-class product sold around the world.
Look at these four bunching up now. Perkins, Brock, John Bow, Tony Longhurst.
There's a fabulous race developing between this group. Turning a bit skatey there. He lost ground in that manoeuvre.
These fellas all know that drinks are on shell tonight, and they're giving it all they can. They want to be lathered up and ready when the booze comes on.
Well, into the left-hander, Larry. Brock right behind him. They're having a great tussle between the V8s. JB getting a little bit closer to them all the time. And he, of course, is being monstered by Tony Longhurst. Larry is a difficult customer to pass, and particularly when he's got a little horsepower brake on you in a straight line, Brock's task is made even more difficult.
I'll be interested to see how these two cars go at Bathurst, the new VN as opposed to the VL. I think Larry's got an excellent package from Mount Panorama this year with his older car.
So this scrap continues between the two Holdens, the Ford Sierra, but here's our leaders. Mark Scaife going through. That's second, Jimmy Richards protecting. And then third is Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. Alan Jones is in fourth place. There's Glenn Seaton going through in fifth. Sixth is Larry Perkins. Seventh is Brock. Eighth is Bow. And ninth is Tony Longhurst. That's the gaps, visual gaps between the top 10.
And the distance in that shot showing the clear superiority of the four-wheel drive twin-turbo supercar. They've put 140 kilograms onto the car this year, and various other engine modifications, but relative to the other cars, it doesn't seem to have slowed them down at all. There he is. Mark Scaife leads the race. Jim Richards backing up in second. Mark Gibson the third, of the distance in third. Alan Jones great in fourth. And Glenn Seaton in this Peter Jackson Sierra rounds out the five. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
It's the Commodore, and right alongside is Tony Longhurst, all over Peter Brock, and JB wanting some of the action, comes down on the inside. The end of the straight.
He's got to be careful there, Mike. He couldn't dare hit that right-hander at that left-hander at that speed. He had to give way to Tony Longhurst, who in turn was being very cautious about where he placed himself against Brocky.
And Larry Perkins, Peter Brock, Tony Longhurst, John Bow. This battle continued. Lap 11 of 22 as Longhurst climbing all over Brock's car as they come off the bridge. He's showing tremendous speed as they come off the bridge there. Extra traction, dives down the inside of Peter Brock. I guess the Commodore's tyres would be struggling a bit by this stage.
It's a perfect example, Mark, of where weight comes into play. The BMW just floating around the 1,000-kilo mark. It's got plenty of traction. Yokohama worked with this team all season, well, for a couple of seasons, basically, since the introduction of the BMW into Australia. They got a tremendous package going forward, and the fellas, the nuances and the feeling of the handling that Tony has built into this car, he just feels super confident. 1,300 kilos on a V8 is still a lot of. It's a heavy camel. It really is. You can have all the horsepower you want, but if you can't fling them through the corners, you're in a lot of trouble.
And Longhurst is showing that now. He pounced on Bow the lap before, pounced on Brock that time. Now he's right on Longhurst's bumper, showing superior race speed, and this is the beauty of this little car, the consistency that it can deliver. Here he goes down the inside. Larry had no answer for that.
Tony's getting very, very careful in the manner in which he's done it. He's learned his lesson earlier in the season, and he's doing it nicely here today.
As you're aware, the regulations and specifications governing Australian touring car racing will change as of December 31st of this year. Phased out are turbocharged and four-wheel drive cars. Phased in a two-class formula for 93, Class 1 for 5-litre V8s, bringing together Ford's EB Falcon and Holden's VP Commodore, with a Class 2 for 2-litre equipment as per the successful British touring car regulations. For the best of both worlds, 2 litres and the return of the fabulous 5-litre Big Bangers. And to explain just how the class will go, CAM's president, John Larch.
Clearly, Australian motor racing has always been positioned between America on the one hand and Europe on the other hand. And insofar as the 5-litre cars of Ford and Holden are concerned, yes, this is definitely road racing of NASCAR-style cars, but the cars will be higher tech than the NASCAR cars. They'll be faster, and they'll be turning both left and right on proper road circuits. I believe this is what the public want to see. This is indeed fair dinkum motor racing.
Battling up front in a car which you know can win a race. It fires every team up, fires every drive up. It's a good feeling.
I like a V8, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you see some of the old Holdens going down here and they sound fantastic. just let's hope we can get a good field of them, that's all. And if we can do that, I think it'll be great.
So the experts have had their say. But what do the fans think? Let's go and find out.
I think the Falcons will be good, but and the Commodores will be good, but it's good seeing the BMWs and the Nissans and stuff too.
I think they just like seeing the larger cars go around, more noise, more excitement.
Yeah, good to see a bit of Aussie V8 power.
Oh yeah, for sure, mate. Especially in the Falcons, I think it's the best thing that could ever happen.
I reckon it'll be bloody good for the sport myself. I reckon it's about time it came back into it.
Well, just a selection or a sample of how the fans on the hill feel. It certainly will be exciting formula. John Bowd making this a formula. Very, very exciting this afternoon. Ford versus Holden, the Turbo. Sierra getting back under Peter Brock again. Closing on Larry Perkins.
You could see there when we went to the tape item, there was plenty of biff and barge going on. Both Holdens carrying some battle damage.
Whoops, as Dickie Johnson goes off.
I don't think anybody will be too unhappy, although, of course, whenever there's change, there's drama for a lot of people. But I think if some of the people can get rid of their selfishness and worry a bit about what's right for the fraternity and what's right for the people that are going to pay their money to come and see it, we'll have a great formula this time in a year's time.
Let's have a look at Dickie Johnson. Hauled it into the right-hander. Oh, a little touch there, or a scrape from Paul Morris, and around goes Dick on our Dunlop race cam. Backs it around. Out of harm's way, and the rest of the field goes through.
5 laps to go.
Got a guy right on his hammer. He can't make the slightest mistake.
Tony Longhurst is closing the gap on Glenn Seaton now, down to 2.8 seconds.
I'd say both Larry and who's suffering a bit from the flu, he's going to get out of this car absolutely wrung out, and Brocky's given everything he's got. They're going to be a couple of tired athletes at the end of this. Might seem like only a few laps, but the energy that has to go into manhandling these cars around a circuit of this nature is tremendously draining, mentally exhausting. Can't do it that way, can't do it that way. As soon as the brake locks up, they lose the steering.
Those tyres on Brock's car will be pretty second-hand by now. He's been locking them up pretty severely over the last 10 laps from what I've been seeing. Paul Morris doing the same thing. So he's really going very deep under brakes to try and get past Larry.
Down into the right-hander, brings them uphill now to the bridge. And I think Brocky's thrown everything, including the kitchen sink at Larry. There's not much more he can do. Just a little taily getting out of that.
Taily there. You can see it wiggling in the back, Mike. And I'll tell you, if we can see it wiggling, it feels like it's an absolute pendulum to him behind the wheel.
And, of course, Paul Morris wants a part of the action. But, gee, that must look like a long freight train ahead of him.
He's driving extremely close to Larry and hasn't touched him.
Well, Mark Gibbs has climbed back onto this battle. He had to spin earlier in the race. And he's trying to work his way back through the field as well. But he's got a lot of work here.
Larry went wide, and that's all Peter wanted.
And I think you'll find Morris will try and get down the inside. Just check the horsepower stakes here as Brocky gets away. Larry's thing just gathers in some more 200 HP.
They're playing with fire here. They're playing with fire here. Exactly what we've seen happen earlier. You have to have the real estate in front of you to make a move like that. And once he lost traction with his brakes, he was out of control. He had to let the car go.
Well, you can see in the last 2 or 3 laps, Brock was in big trouble. He was locking brakes everywhere. The car was sliding and slipping. He's having difficulty getting the power down. Let's have a look at that again on the replay. Big lock up. Brock goes offline. When the back wheel gets onto the dirt, he's gone. Larry locks everything up to try and avoid him. The other guys got around him quite well, actually.
Well, and you notice.
And Larry slips off.
Larry did a good job there. 3 laps to go. Mark Gibbs has been the big winner out of all of this. As we showed you that replay, he's found a path past Perkins. Morris is down now.
Yes, well, Larry had very little defense against that move as well. He's at the end of his tether.
He's got the back bumper bar hanging off the car. Meanwhile,
now we have Jimmy Richards sitting right behind Mark Scaife.
Yes, I think we're looking at a little get-together here for a photo finish or
a form
finish.
I'm sorry, I forgot my cue.
One of those 77 form finishes.
Thank you very much, Michael.
But here comes Mark. Jim playing rear gunner, and they are well and truly clear of the field.
Well, this will cap a remarkably successful period in Australian touring car racing for Nissan. This is their 3rd Australian Touring Car Championship on the trot. It's also the 3rd championship for their tyre supplier, Yokohama. Tony Longhurst, when this race is over, may well be 3rd in the championship. But the Nissans really have dominated this year. Scaife and Richards climbed onto the top of the points table from the second race on, and they've been up there ever since.
It's exciting stuff here, though, as Tony Longhurst comes down on the inside of Glenn Seaton. They are putting a lap on the Commodore, and now you'll find that Tony will try and sit in for the draft. He missed that pull down the straight as Glenn gets away in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Longhurst has made a steady climb through the field. Alan Jones just ahead of them.
You can see the way he throws the car into that left-hander with impunity. He doesn't worry about it sliding around. It is not wiggling. It's going exactly where he wants to place it. So in proportion to the power and the weight of the car, the Yokohama have done a superb job with this team in supplying rubber that is working very well for them.
So,
oh, let's take the Castrol race cam up this time on the inside of Seaton. The corner gets narrower.
Wow. Aggressive.
Oh, that's all right.
Hear the contact.
Sorry,
thanks. That was a thanks, I'll see you later wave. That wasn't really a thanks for getting over. That was the famous Sterling Moss wave.
Well, I tell you what, it's caused a problem. I don't know whether he's got a tyre that's flat. Yes, he has.
Puncture, right front, can't do a thing, can hardly steer it. It's
So the last bolt of aggression from Tony Longhurst.
It's okay when you're doing this speed, but something like that on...
Oops, there's another one gone. No, a quarter. I thought it was Colin Jones on... Colin Bond, rather, on Bob Jones.
So this is the...
They're on the last...
A long way away from where the Bluebirds used to finish, but a credit to Freddie Gibson and his team.
Yep.
You don't win by accident.
So Mark Scaife bound for an Australian touring car crown here today at Oran Park Raceway, and the defending champion and his team partner Jimmy Richards sits in behind. Mark in the number 2 Winfield Nissan GTR, the 4-wheel drive twin turbo car, exits that turn. Big question about what they will be running in season 93. The Winfield team, they come into the final corner now. Crowd already to its feet to acknowledge and to salute Mark Scaife, the 92 Shell Australian Touring Car Champion. Second spot goes to Jimmy Richards in a form finish across the line, and third still to come in as they head down into the bottom turn. And it should be Alan Jones in the Benson and Hedges BMW car number 20, and there he is there on camera, coming out of the last corner to finish in third place. So behind the 2 Nissans, it was daylight back to third, and even more daylight back to fourth, and that happened to be his team partner, Tony Longhurst, in the number 25 B&H BMW. Let's check them out and confirm for you on our Shell race score. Mark Scaife, the winner. Second spot to his teammate Jimmy Richards, third Alan Jones, fourth Tony Longhurst, and fifth was John Bauer in the Shell Sierra.
All I need is what you've got.
Well, happy scenes here today at Oran Park Raceway. Third place in the final today. What a performance today to our ex-Formula 1 champ, Alan Jones. Well done, Alan.
Thanks, mate.
I tell you, that was a long time coming.
Yeah, it's been a long time before drinks, but hopefully next year I'll be last to come up and see you.
Oh, yes, of course. Were you working on plans for next year already?
Yep.
All right, you'll keep them to yourself until then?
Yep.
Thanks, Al. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
All
Bye.
the best to you. Yeah. Runner-up and second today in the National Championship was the defending Shell champion, Jimmy Richards. Well, you had a few moments in practice yesterday, but you played a magnificent role today. Some interesting racing.
It was good, yes. You know, our cars fortunately were good for 2 heats around here, and that's what was the difference. But I'd like to congratulate Mark. He's done a fantastic job all year, and he's a worthy champion.
Well said, and you haven't even raised a sweat.
Exactly.
Good on you, Jimmy. And ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you, for Shell Australia, the youngest touring car champion in our history, Mark Scaife. I bet that feels super, does it?
It's fantastic. The guys have worked very hard all year, and you know, to Gibson Motorsport, Winfield, Nissan, Yokohama, Shell, Australian Airlines, all our sponsors, thank you very much.
Good boy, Mark Scaife. And to put the sash on you, Tommy Smith from Shell. Being a Shell boy, you'd appreciate that.
Congratulations, Mark. Not only a great race today, but a magnificent season. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Final points in the championship, Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards for Winfield Team Nissan, 1-2. Tony Longhurst third in the series on 184. John Bow is next on 175 and Glenn Seaton on 173. What a series, Alan Moffat.
Well, it was great, but certainly 1993 is going to be even more exciting.
I sincerely believe that. And Mark, we'll see you next when we go motor racing.
Sure will.
Don't forget to join us on 7 from Amaroo Park on August 23. Bye, Delenn. Today's motor racing telecast was proudly brought to you by Synovus Vitamins and Shell. Go well, go Shell. This has been another 7 Sport production, the network of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.